Joining us now, former Republican National Committee Chairman, former Mississippi Governor, and BGR Group founding partner, Haley Barbour. Good to see you, sir. Thanks so much for joining us.
Oh, Maria, thank you for having me.
Your reaction to this latest back and forth on the FISA memo controversy?
Well, anytime we're talking about security, we're talking about the government spying or taking information that is otherwise classified, you have to be careful. But what's going on here is Congress is doing its job of looking at how things are handled. And just like we ought to be careful about intelligence generally, we need strong oversight over that intelligence. That's the best way to make sure that they only do what they're supposed to do. So it makes total sense, I think, to most people. We need to find out what actually happened.
Haley, I wanted to ask you about that and just maybe an observation on the media. Folks in our industry, a lot of them spend a lot of their time trying to make classified information public. A lot of news organizations employ a lot of people trying to get non-public information in Washington and make it public. In this case, I would have to say a lot of our media brethren are not necessarily that eager, it seems, to pull out this particular piece of potentially classified data.
Well, it's just another indication of the balkanization of the media that people take sides. The liberal media elite has their view. Conservative groups, media organizations have theirs. But in this case, what we really need to do is protect the American people. And if government agencies, whether it's a respected agency like the FBI or any other government agency, is not playing by the rules, it's Congress' job through oversight to put a stop to that. And one of the ways you put a stop to it is you shine the sunshine on it.
Haley, this is Heather Higgins.
Hey, Heather.
Hey, how are you? And I'm so glad for you that when you were arrested for having a gun that you were in Mississippi and not New York as you went through TSA. You are so fortunate that you were not here. The question that I have for you is, what do you think, presuming that the memo gets released, what becomes the relationship between the FBI and DOJ and the oversight committees?
Well, anytime an agency of government gets criticized or there's oversight that shows that they did something they shouldn't have done or didn't do something that they should, of course that creates tension. That's human nature.
Haley, you want to just explain that? Because Heather just talked about you getting arrested. We want to make sure that obviously now it's the elephant in the room. Tell us what happens.
Well, before Christmas, I moved a handgun from one place to another by putting it in my briefcase. And that was before Christmas. I didn't think about it. On the 2nd of January, I caught a plane and absent-mindedly had not taken the handgun out of my briefcase. So it showed up as I went through security, and the security people did just exactly what they were supposed to do. They found it. They treated me just like anybody else. And I don't know if arrested is the technically right word, but I went up, sat down with them, made a statement, because, look, it was totally unintentional,
right, of course.
Carelessness,
right.
But I did it, and
yeah.
So they did the right thing. And I will say about the security people, both federal and local, they were professional, but they were polite, they were courteous,
yeah,
and they did just what they should have done.
Thank you for addressing it, Haley, and thank you, Heather. The midterm elections now just around the corner. The Democratic National Committee is running on fumes. We want to talk about this because paperwork submitted by the Federal Election Commission tallied DNC fundraising efforts in 2017 to an estimated $66 million. That's nearly half of what the RNC's estimated $132.5 million haul is coming up. So coming off of this week fundraising showing, according to to NBC, the DNC CEO, Jess O'Connell, is reportedly out of the job after less than a year. Give us your take on what you see happening with regard to the fundraising part of the story, Governor.
Well, I think we need to be very careful that we don't leave out a huge part of the story, and that is the candidates of the left, Democrats, socialists, whatever they are not very much funded by the Democratic Party. They're these huge outside organizations. There was an announcement last week that the public employee unions, Tom Steyer, the environmentalist, the AFL-CIO, had pledged $350 million just in campaigns to defeat Republican governors. So let's don't forget that so much of their money comes from Planned Parenthood or not through the party. The Republicans, a great deal more of our money actually is contributed by individuals to the party, and the party dispenses it. Not so much with the Democrats.
Haley, on that note, it's Dagan McDowell, that there is money and there is enthusiasm for Democratic candidates out there. You have a Beto O'Rourke in Texas outraising Ted Cruz in the most recent 3-month period. You have a Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee raising more than $105 million last year, which I believe is a record for a non-election year. So, again, Nancy Pelosi might be sitting on her hands at the State of the Union address, but there is definitely money willing to step up on the Democratic side to back up some of these candidates running in November.
No question about that. And that was the point I was trying to make. Even
Right.
if it doesn't come from a Democratic party committee, there are these other organizations that are just pouring money into Democratic campaigns. Republicans were outspent in the last election. We'll be outspent in this election.
But you could do, Donald Trump was way outspent by Hillary Clinton.
That's true. Great point.
He could do that because he's President Trump. But again, that's the personality of the individual. Don't the candidates at the ground level in the Republican Party need to worry about what's happening right here, right now?
Well, they do need to worry about being outspent or being outspent by a large margin. In off-year elections like this year, the campaigns are much more localized. It's much more Congressman X versus Challenger Y. It's much more about their state, their district. The Democrats want to make everything about Donald Trump.
Right. And
if you don't like Donald Trump, you ought to vote against every Republican, even if it's the best senator, best House member you've ever had.
But how successful is that going to be going into the 2018 election? I mean, it's all about resist, resist, resist. They don't have a message, Governor. I mean, we know what the Republicans are going to run on, their tax plan and a better economy. Can the Dems win more seats come 2018 if their message is just resist the guy in the White House?
It's much harder to win if you don't give people something to vote for. There's no question about that.
We want to ask you. Yeah, go ahead.
No, look, it's a long way to these elections. The Republicans got a little bounce out of the last month, the tax bill, and I guarantee you they're going to get a little bounce out of the president's speech, which was really good. These are going to be competitive elections, but they will be more and more about the place where they are, the campaign, the state, the district, and less about the national situation than the Democrats want to believe.
Yeah.
The Republicans got to make it about the economy, so they have some sense. If we need to make it national, too, about the improvement in the economy, it's because of our policies. But they do tend to get more localized the closer you get to election
So
day.
we want to ask you about this. We've been talking about this FISA memo all morning and the fact that Devin Nunes and Trey Gowdy have been doing such good work on this. But, James, you mentioned a really good point. We got news this morning from Trey Gowdy.
Yeah, I'm wondering, Haley, what we should make of this news that Trey Gowdy is leaving Congress. He says he prefers being a lawyer, I guess, to a politician. But how do you read it in terms of what does it mean for the fall?
Well, we do have a number of retirements, and a lot of those retirements are among very senior people, many of whom are committee chairs who are term limited. I think the idea of term limiting committee chairs, particularly in the House, is a bad idea because I think it costs you good members. But that's not for me to decide.
That's what's happening here, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. But Trey's only been there about 8 years. I just think he's somebody that has been a prosecutor, been in the justice system, and thinks it accomplishes a whole lot more, a whole lot faster than Congress does.
Yeah. All right, Governor Haley Barbour, it's always a pleasure, sir. Thanks so much for spending the time with us this morning.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. We will see you soon. Haley Barbour there, coming right